we're going to we started a paragraph which is called a section is called the meaning of Om. Yeah. This is the end of the third chapter, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Swamiji added this part at the end, because it needs to be looked at, in a thorough way. We did that last time. I'm just going to read the two paragraphs that we did before, and if there is anything else that you want to or comment upon, let's do it. It starts with saying the meaning of Om. It says all the chapters in the Gita end with the above words, the only variation being the title of the chapter. In the expression Om Tat Sat is the name, Om is the name of Brahman, a phonetic name for the Lord. Apart from this, linguistically, that is grammatically, this term has a meaning too. It means that which protects everyone, that which sustains everything. Avati Rakshati Iti Om. Phonetically, A is the first and basic sound that you make when you open your mouth. Thus, A is the first letter of the Sanskrit alphabet. Also, when you close your mouth and make a sound, what comes out is a sound M. And in between, there's a rounding off sound, U. A plus U is O, which along with M is Om. We left it last time there. Are there any comments here? Because, Om is said, by Hindus in all religious practices, and all prayers start with Om and finish with Om also. So to recognize that, there's Brahman himself. And then not only that, you see, normally we think of Brahman as a deity. People can think of it as something out there. But the word itself denotes what? It denotes something that is the only thing there is. I think the word itself, I think, is called big, but not big as an adjective, but big as a noun. In other words, so then, if Brahman is the whole, in other words, as only Brahman is, then what are we? What are we? We are Brahman. There is nothing but Brahman. So the experience that we have, I, and everything the I experiences, is only Brahman. Now this kills the identity that we normally have. Is that right? Doesn't it destroy it? What is the identity we now have?
Body, mind, person.
Yeah, we identify with a personality structure. And now, and that personality structure is full of limitations. Time limitations, space limitations, knowledge limitations, faculty limitations, all kinds of limitations. The biggest limitation is what? That there is a birth, and therefore there will be a what?
Death.
So the end is not if, it's going to be when. And that is not acceptable, even though we might resign to it. But what happens if you see Brahman everywhere? What happens to you? You see, look at the consequence, how do you call this? The implications.
Yeah.
Look at the implications. What does it imply about you? What does it imply about you to know that this Brahman is the only thing, there's nothing else, it is a content of everything, And then you say, if that is so, then I am that Brahman.
And I will be here.
So that means that before the body and the personality was, I am. While the body and the personality is there, I am. And when the body and the personality dissolves, I am. Aham Brahma Asmi. I am that Brahman. So the implication, see, now look at this. Nobody can think or feel away from what he or she understands. We have already set patterns of thinking, and they're all related to a perceptive knowledge of ourselves. And that knowledge is deeply ingrained, and we don't normally question it. Is that right? I mean, of course, when I'm a child, and I'm growing into adulthood, I say, I don't know what I'm going to be. And this being that I want to be is different from this being that I am now. And when I finally become what I think I wanted, then that being is not enough. Is that right? There's a discomfort about myself. And then there's a judgment about myself. And I try to dress it up with titles and all that, possessions and all these things, experiences and cruises and all kinds of stuff. But the me that I am is something that is not good enough. So this sense of inadequacy, this sense of completeness, it rules our entire life because it is based on a perception of ourselves of being what? Limited. And the limitation somehow we reject. Now, how can we prove, prove or confirm that Aham Brahma Asmi, that I am that Brahman? How can I prove that? Can I prove it by visual? No. I can prove it by inference also. Isn't it?
Yeah.
How can you prove it by inference?
By negation?
By inference. You can infer it.
Like hearing it from somebody. Hearing it from somebody else.
Right, you hear it, but then you say, wait a minute, can I be that? Okay, now watch this. Look at our experience. Anytime that we have something that is, let's say, uncomfortable, like anger, fear, and all those things, that brings about, it's an experience. And now that experience itself, is something that we don't embrace. We want to get rid of it. We want the opposite. Is that right? Shanti, so we want freedom from that stuff. Now, why would you want freedom from anger? Why would you want freedom from jealousy? Why would you want freedom from fear and sadness and all that stuff? Because there's something in you that is telling you that is something foreign to you. So the vision of the Shastra is telling you that you are that whole, that the nature of yourself is pure existence. In other words, there's nothing missing. You don't have a beginning and end. And the Shastra says that the nature of yourself is pure consciousness. And the nature of yourself is what? Ananda. Ananta also. Same word. Eternal. So that is why you reject death. That is why you reject unhappiness. So the mind is conditioned to think, I am this limited guy. Okay, but when the teaching says, you are that whole, which is Brahman, then if the mind starts accepting that, even in principle, if he doesn't see it, but at least has some shraddha, some belief about it, now a whole new scheme of things starts happening in the mentality of the person. And maybe that mentality is going to be now start growing in the person to the point that it will kill off the weeds of this deception that we have about ourselves. Until that will go to the point in which then that completely disappears. But it has to be done through knowledge, because it cannot happen as a consequence of actions. Actions are not a direct means for that. It's only direct means is knowledge, and the knowledge has, as you said, has to come from the outside, because we don't have the pramana, the means, instruments built into ourselves for being able to see ourselves, just like the eyes cannot see themselves. So to understand what Om means, and when you say Om, and to know exactly what that means, not just to be able to repeat it like I'm doing right now, but when that becomes ingrained in you and you say Om, 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 then the vision of yourself as Brahman needs to come up. It's like when you just get a new job and now you're the head of the department, and then you were a dingaling there before, another one of the guys, how do you call that? Subordinate to somebody else. And all of a sudden they called you boss. You have to learn to wear boss. Right? You have to grow in you. You start acting as a dingling. Is that a dingling thing word? You know, it's a peon. You're the boss. Own it up. And the mentality shifts altogether. There's a shift of consciousness, as you were. It's a cognitive change. Prior to that, prior to this knowledge, you're still Brahman. Is that right? Even though you were a rascal, as a personality, people just didn't like you and all that, because all the things that you didn't do, you should have done. You yourself judged you and all that stuff, but you were always Brahman. There was no, because Brahman is not something you become. Brahman is something, if you are, you are not, period. So you've always been Brahman. The Brahman is the whole, that which is a substratum of the whole thing. Now, but the mentality was, I am limited. You see, Brahman is Nitya, isn't it? Nitya means what?
Eternal.
Eternal. Non-changing. And I take myself to be anitya. Isn't it? Non-eternal. Brahman is Satyam. Is that correct? Satyam means true. It is that which cannot be negated. It's that something that doesn't decline nor grow. Is that correct to say?
Yeah.
It doesn't decline nor grow. But we take ourselves to be the one that grows and then declines. You see the idea? So this Om, to have this particular understanding of Om in this particular way, is a profound understanding of yourself. It's like identifying a particular metal, and you have a particular use for something, and you have to know what that metal is about, its qualities, and you have to know that, and then only then can it become useful either to reject it or to use it in your project, or machinery or whatever. You see, so that knowledge needs to grow in the mind. Yes, Aham Brahmasmi. Yes, I am that Brahman. And what is Brahman? Is consciousness. Pure consciousness. And this consciousness is not going to be something that I'm going to pick up somewhere. I am the light of awareness that illumines all forms and names. And that is limitless. It doesn't flicker. You know the word flicker? Mm-hmm. It doesn't come and go. It doesn't go up and down. As people think sometimes, because of this dualistic thing like yoga and all that stuff. It goes up and down. It doesn't go out. It doesn't flicker. It's always present. Even when you're asleep. It's always present. Now, you're not conscious of the waking world, but you're conscious of there's a consciousness aware of the dream world. And even when you go into deep sleep and there is no experience, the presence is still there. And the knowledge of no experience is also there. You don't disappear. It doesn't flicker. Who you are is constant. So it's called what? Nitya. It's called Nitya Chaitanya. Chaitanya, you know?
Yeah.
What does that mean, Chaitanya mean?
Consciousness?
Consciousness. You see, so that means that they have to, all consciousness, all awareness is always object-oriented. Is that right? All awareness is always object-oriented. All cognition is object cognition. Is that correct to say that? All cognition. Well, take the cognitive being free of cognition, of the cognitive object. Just pure cognition. If pure cognition you are, and you are able to let go of the object and just abide in cognition only, pure cognition, then you are perfectly listening to everything and constantly aware of everything. Because the object comes and goes, and it doesn't take you away anymore, isn't it? So you're constantly aware.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you drop the object cognition condition, and you become the cognitive self only. And then that cognitive self does not suffer the limitation of the cognitive object person. Because the cognitive object person gets involved, identified with the object he recognizes, and that object will disappear. And then you pant out of it, and then another one comes, and then you hang on to that. In other words, the me, the self, is always grabbing its identity with all the things that it recognizes. But then there's something that doesn't, you see, when any object comes in, regardless of what it is, either awareness of the body, the senses, the mind, or anything outside, this awareness doesn't get involved in that. It illumines, that's it. So you come to realize that the objects, listen please, are you. But you are not the objects. You understand that? Listen please. The objects are you. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Listen. Can you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
What am I saying?
The gold is ring, but the ring is not gold.
That's right. The ring is gold.
The ring is, yeah.
Ah.
Gold is not ring.
Ah.
Like the ocean.
You see, there's no ring actually. All there is gold. So now you have this body, these senses, this personality structure. And Om is you, which means what? That because of which the personality structure is there. So it is you, but you're not it. In other words, you're abiding in what is true. Now you still deal with situations and all that as a person. Like this ring doesn't cease to be a ring, and it does his ring job. But the identity is placed where it belongs. The ring is incidental. You know incidental? What does that mean by that?
It could be anything
It
else.
could be anything else, that's right. Isn't the body made of matter? Calcium, phosphorus, and all that stuff? And you find it everywhere. As a matter of fact, you become conscious when you die, you become again part of the elements of the earth. But there's something that doesn't come and go. That is yourself. Aham Brahma Asmi. I am that Brahman. I am the whole. There is nothing lacking in me. Now that vritti, it's called vritti. What is it? Vritti. You know the word vritti? What is it?
Inclination?
Huh? That thought modification. You know the vritti right now? You know what it means? I don't know, there's something wrong with me. I'm not satisfied. I need to eat this, I need to buy that. I need that person to come, and I need to change. All these things, the vritti is a dissatisfied vritti. There's something wrong with the world. There's something wrong with me. And when I finally make it, quote unquote, it's tremendous disappointment. Because this mantra, this vritti that I have in my mind doesn't go away, that there's something wrong with me. Yeah. Even though everybody glorifies me, they make monuments to me, and they only knew.
Oh, yeah.
You see the idea? So, the vritti is this called, what is called, this vritti, new vritti. Aham Brahmasmi vritti. Consciousness is Brahman, that's a vritti. Consciousness means this awareness is Brahman. Isn't it? Hmm. This self is Brahman. And the teacher says, Tattvamasi, you are that Brahman. And the mind needs to tell the rest of the vritti, say, you are that Brahman. You got to tell, you are that Brahman. But then you have to arrive at that by yourself. You know, you have students in the school, and you give them an assignment, and then you turn your back and all that, and check out somebody else, and then they put the result. Oh, got it right. And it's okay. Come. How do you arrive at that? And talk about challenge. You talk about sweating. Why? Because you can say it. Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi, all this stuff. But what do you mean by that? How do you arrive at that? That needs to be what?
Assimilated.
Assimilated.
Yeah.
If it is not assimilated, it becomes a whole bunch of English BS.
As you say, parroting.
Yeah, parroting, that's correct. So we have to be careful about that, especially a guy like myself that is supposedly teaching this stuff. You know, because otherwise it becomes a lot of parroting. You might enjoy it, but in me there's a problem. Why? Because I can parrot it. See the idea? Anyway, so that's why Om, the understanding of Om, is very, very important. I wanted to go back to that because we're going to pick up from here onwards. Swamiji is trying to see the meaning of Om. And let me tell you what, it's not just a word meaning, because Om is not a word. A meaning means the implications of knowing Aham Brahmasmi, I am the Brahman. What that means to me. If I tell you, okay, if I say, you know, remember that pool you and I went to, and we went to buy the liquor store, and you gave me $5, and I put $5, and we bought a ticket, and I said the ticket, guess what? Guess what? You know, $132 million sweepstakes? Mm-hmm. Does that mean anything to you? You see what I mean? Tax-free? Half of it is yours? I said, what? That has meaning, isn't it? Well, it has to have the same meaning. In that respect, when you talk about meaning, the meaning of Om is not just to have the literal meaning, what it means to me. Otherwise, it becomes a nice intellectual thing, and it doesn't go anywhere. Okay, so anyway, that's I wanted to just explain. You know, I explain, but you know, I'm expound on this thing here again. Okay, so
yeah, and he
yes.
also said that and U, and actually, when the very methodical language, when he says Sanskrit, starts with the word. Every little word has some scientific way of saying that. When you say you can just see you're just letting the air go, e. And there is k, g. Your tongue and your palate has something. p. You are using only the lips. And the last word in that series is m. P, b, m. So you start with p, m. And then when you say and u, e, u, that u comes from the e, u, that series. And when you say and u makes o, there are a lot of words like that. For instance, you know, bhagyam, like daivam, bhagyam, bhagya and uday. Uday means rise of your bhagya. That one word is bhagyodar. Bhagya and uday, the ear, the there, and u, that becomes o. Bhagyodaya. That's how that O came in.
They say phonics.
That's how that O came in.
Is that right?
Sorry about that.
No, that's beautiful. As a matter of fact, we need to understand that. We need to understand that because we have to see where does it come out that this and and
Now we can see that and U, when you mix it, he says it becomes O.
yeah, because
Bhagya, ends with Bhagya. Uday starts with U. But one word is Bhagyodaya. That O comes around. That's what exactly it is. Sorry.
Beautiful. And there is Sanskrit,
There are some words in there, Mahodaya, Maha and Uday, Mahodaya.
Ma.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you, you see, before I knew all this stuff, before I was involved with this, I used to think of Sanskrit as something very primitive. Primitive meaning in the sense like, there's a cavern type of thing, before they invented a wheel kind of a thing. Very primitive, useless. And I can find, the little I pick up from you guys and from Swamiji and the scripture, it's an amazing, it's an amazing language.
Yeah, it's one of the richest, just as I say, you can see A, I, E, Pa, Pa, Ba, Ba, Ma, Ka, Ka, Cha, no, Ta, Tha, Da, Da, Na. When you say that series, Ta, Tha, Da, Da, Na, you can clearly see where your tongue goes with the palate. Pa, Pa, Ba, Ba, Ma, this, beautiful thing. Exactly, you can teach a kid, draw the diagram of tongue and
yeah.
palate and
the positions,
where it goes, so.
the positions of the tongue and everything. Yeah, interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, because the back of the palate, the front, and the top of the palate, and the front of the palate, and the teeth, and all that stuff, the lips.
Yeah.
There's a whole range.
I forget the names of those,
Yeah.
but there is
It's a whole range.
They have it too. We teach the kids the same.
Is that right?
Yeah, same.
The phonetic language.
In English too, the way you pronounce it, K and C and all, it's a phonics, how you pronounce it. We teach them that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because it is a universal thing, regardless of the language you're learning. Because whether you're Eskimo or you're whatever, all languages are based on sound, air going through, and then the positions of it's all air. That's all it is. The only thing is the positions and the meanings are different, so it creates different words. But the meaning is conventional.
Yeah.
The meaning is conventional. In other words, in the course of history, the meaning becomes conventional. But there is something which is not conventional. It's something that is natural.
It is. Yeah, it is built in.
It's built in. It's part of the makeup of a person.
Right.
How I think the accent makes it different, Like the Americans, when they make their lips different way.
Yeah.
And the same word when we say different.
Yeah. It's I for a long time I felt kind of embarrassed to even try to sing, what I heard from my teachers, these bhajans and some of this stuff, because I don't know a language, I said, well, then that I parrot. I tried to parrot, but it's impossible. Why? Because I need to know the intricacies of that, what it is. I don't have the culture for that. And as a matter of fact, you can say, well, why don't you take it? Listen, I got other things to do, But then I get enriched. I've been enriched by you guys all these years, because of your culture. So since I'm taking this a little bit here, I pick up here and there, and it's wonderful, because it is quite a daring thing. It's very, how dare I, you can say. But you know what, if I don't, so the vision is what counts. But of course the words are important. Yeah, the words are important. And maybe some of the students of my classes that were American went to India and studied the Sanskrit. That's why one Mexican guy, son of a Mexican family, born in San Francisco, he went to India, and the guy teaches this thing here. He's very good. Very good. Radha, this other professor, Carol, she's an American. She saw this thing here as valuable, and she worked everything she could just to get herself over the ocean to go to India and study. She spent years and years studying Sanskrit. And she's a great teacher of Sanskrit besides Vedanta. So the people that had the youth and had the availability and the time to do it, like that. So if somebody has that, people should do it. And you say, but why study Sanskrit? Well, I tell you, there's so much rich content in understanding the language. As I said, just a little bit I picked up from my teachers, has given me some inkling of the thing. So just imagine to know a language itself is great. Yeah, and it takes a lot of dedication. I took the alphabet one time, with this Mexican guy that came from India. Then we used to have classes, and he used to try to teach us Sanskrit. And I went to the classes. I went to about 10 classes, and we were taking the prayers that we do, and to learn the Sanskrit background and all that stuff. But it was too much,
It is.
Yeah, I have 4 children. I had real jobs to take care of and all that, and it was just too much. But if I was born again, I'd do it. Yeah. Anyway, that's just fun. Very good. Let's go to the next part. Then we saw this section right here, and he's explaining the phonetic aspect of it. Now, you want to read, please?
Sure.
Basu?
All forms, all objects have names, and all names are words. Words, even the longest ones like oh, this is a good one.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
This is the one on the movie.
Yeah, very popular.
Are nothing but sounds.
That's great.
These sounds are these sounds all come between a that comes when you open your mouth and make a sound, and the sound m that comes with the mouth closed. You cannot make any further sounds after this letter m. Thus, these are the 2 sounds within which all sounds are produced. Amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Given that the Lord is the Lord of everything, His name should be Om. And to account for the everything, the U is inserted in between. In this way, Om becomes the name of Bhagavan, the Lord. Also, each of these 3 letters has been loaded by the Shastra to stand for the whole. This practice is called Arupa in Sanskrit, just as country's flag represents its constitution. Here, the A represents the entire gross world, Sthula Prapancha. The U represents the entire subtle world, Sukshma Prapancha, meaning the mind or inner world, and the M represents the unmanifest condition, like in sleep, when everything resolves and on waking again comes out.
Okay, let's just make a little pause right here, okay? Any comments, please? If you want to make a comment or expound on something. Now, can I ask a question? Why does Om become the word? It says Om becomes the name of Bhagavan, the Lord. Why does Om become the name of Bhagavan?
Because in that Om, everything is included.
And what does Bhagavan have to do with it?
Like Bhagavan is everything.
Okay.
One Bhagavan, one Brahman, one Ishvara.
Mm-hmm.
So everything is there, just Bhagavan is everything together.
Okay.
This is my understanding.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we talk about Bhagavan, from what standpoint are we talking about? Remember that from the standpoint of Vedanta, this is the absolute reality and there's no names and nothing. Okay? So from what standpoint are we talking about when we say Bhagavan?
Consciousness.
Jivatma?
The Jivatmas. Ishvara. Ishvara means is creator, isn't it?
Yeah.
Define Ishvara. How do you say Ishvara? Can you define Ishvara? Define the word. We know the name of the Lord is Ishvara. Is that right? That's the Lord meaning the creator. Now, there is really no creator. Ultimately. If Bhagavan is the whole, and that only the whole is, So if there's a creator, then it is Bhagavan. It's actually Brahman himself, seen from the standpoint of the jiva, the individual, because the individual sees this amazing creation, or this amazing universe. Let's put it that way. This amazing universe that is intelligent put together. Is that right? There is an intelligent setup. There is laws that make the universe happen. Even if you take the first Bang theory and the manifestation of the nebulae that eventually became hardened, and the hardening of the nebulae created these stars and this stuff, and then out of these pieces of stars came out and created, and they started getting cooled down in relation to the distances and all. There's a perfect, and then they create this elliptic motion of those particular pieces of star that became cooled down, and based on the distance of them, one of them became the Earth. And the thing doesn't just have an elliptical, but it has a motion in it within itself. It acts like a thought, and it also has a how do you call this? It revolves in its own axis, and it creates life. My God, because of that, life is possible. This. You look at every aspect of your personality. It's a beautiful piece of art. There's an intelligence. There's a perfect intelligence. So then, we need to necessarily recognize that intelligence has to belong to a being. So we create, as it were, a being. Because we have no vision of the Lord, of Brahman, per se, because we're trying to appreciate it through the senses. But if a person grows maturity, it cannot be by an awe of the amazingness of the universe. People are living close to the earth, in farms and all that stuff. They can't but be at all and worship and venerate the magic of things growing and giving life, like the earth itself. And you take and it gives you these plants and these trees and these fruits and the in other words, all of this stuff. You see the animals, they give you life. You eat them, the fish, everything, and the process of egg laying for the chickens and for the fish, or the fact that vertebrae that come out, of the womb of a mother and so on, and all the entire situation, it could be awesome. So then the jiva, the individual, says, my God, I came here because of those laws. And I call that Bhaga. If there is anything that is amazing, awesome, that's the word Bhaga. I think the word Bhaga is that which has all the glories. And I cannot even express the glories. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. So then, now what is the content of the whole creation? Upon what does it function? Now, what is that which, because of which, this manifestation exists? Because nothing exists by itself. Everything depends on something else to exist. Is that right? Mm-hmm. So this manifestation, which you see so perfect and so awesome, is. So there has to be a principle, an undifferentiated, unified principle. And that is Brahman, which has no form, but because of which all forms are possible. And from the standpoint of manifestation is called Ishvara or Bhagavan. So this contemplation is a contemplation. Has to be made because this mind needs to appreciate that. It needs to grow to appreciate that. Not just to eat the fruits when they come out of the tree, but because enthralled by the fact that there's nutrition, there's flavor, there's life. You see, all of this stuff. You have to become a poet. You can't but become a poet when you appreciate that. And And the glory of a human being, what makes him glorious is to appreciate the glories. And the glories has to be ascribed to something glorious. And that is where Bhagavan becomes. But Bhagavan, they say, how many gods are there? Or is there only one God? They say, no, all there is God. We need one Bhagavan, he is the creation. So it is from the standpoint of the jiva. It's the jiva that recognizes the truth of the whole thing and becomes awed. The sense of awe. Awe. Is that the right word? Awe? Yeah. Sense of awe. To be amazed at the lubrication of the eyeball to the lids when they go up and down, and they become stuck and forget the glory of that, the glory of, how engineering was. It's amazing. All of that stuff. So Bhagavan is Ishvara. Ishvara is Om. Om is Brahman. And now, since Brahman is the only thing there is and Ishvara is the only thing there is, then what am I? I am that. I am that what? That Bhagavan, which is also Ishvara, which is also Brahman. That's what you come to realize. And then that new vritti starts growing in the mind. And you bless yourself. In other words, that vritti blesses your life. But not only that, it blesses the life of those around you too. You cannot but do that, naturally. So I just wanted to bring that question. He said, how come Bhagavan is equal to Om? What is this thing here? And Om Swami uses a word here that the Shastra does. It says, this is given. It says right here, also each of these three letters has been loaded by the Shastra to stand for the whole. What do you mean by loaded? What makes you laugh? What's so funny?
It's more physical.
It feels loaded, yeah, right.
Rather than a metaphysical.
But think about it. Now watch. Look at this, please, okay? Here's an object. And let's suppose I forgot it. Okay, let's suppose I forgot it. And I wanted to record, okay? Then the absence, I load it, and I say, it makes me very unhappy that I left it. Mm-hmm. But then, after a little while, then I got it. Now I'm loading it with happiness, and I'm loading it with, loading means we make a symbol out of it. Is that right? Yeah. A metaphor out of it. You understand that, what I'm talking about? A person, we can load a person, that person represents my happiness. This situation represents my unhappiness. So we loaded, so the Shastra loaded, this is, those sounds.
I'll give a lot of weightage to that?
It's actually extending their meaning. Look at what he did. Look at the Shastra.
I consider that loading means more or less taking a thread and a needle and making sure they're all together.
Loading?
No, I mean in this terminology.
But look at this. Look at what he does. Okay, look at that. This is also, each of these letters has been loaded by Shastra to stand for the whole. In other words, to represent the whole. Just like this guy represents my happiness or my unhappiness. This could represent my importance, lack of importance. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I'm loading an object with something. In other words, I am ascribing to it something that is representative. In other words, let's suppose I wanted to show it to 100 people and they were waiting for it. So I said, oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble because I didn't bring it. So he says, now look at this. This practice is called arupa in Sanskrit. What does the word arupa means? You know that word, arupa?
It's like a swarupa, I mean contrary.
Is that opposite to rupa? No.
No, it is a rupa. It is not a
Arupa.
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 Is that an
Arupa.
astronomical term?
Okay, this says, just as a country's flag, look at this please.
This practice is called Arupa in Sanskrit.
It's Arupa. Arupa or Arupa. Now, Arupa. Now, and now here is the example, please. Look at the flag example. What do we get to the flag? What is using the flag example?
Symbols of the nation.
That's correct, symbol of the nation. So we load a piece of cloth with some colors
Yeah.
and some shape, and we load it with representing what? The nation, the people, a nationality, and so on.
It's like giving an importance to something.
It's just making it represent something.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Making it represent something. You might not like the president, but the presidency you respect.
What
It stands for a democracy and everything else. So anyway, so this practice is called Arupa in Sanskrit. Just as a country's flag represents its constitution, here the A represents the entire gross world. A. It's a Stula Prapancha. The U represents the entire subtle world. It's called Sukshma Prapancha, meaning the mind or inner world. And the or M represents the unmanifest condition. Like in sleep, when everything resolves, and on waking, again comes out. Now we have the representation, this A, U, M. One represents the entire, what? Jagat. Is that Jagat? The whole entire universe. The physical world, we can call it. Second one represents what?
Sukshma.
Which means what?
Inner
Certain.
In the mind, the mental world. There's a microcosmic mind, which is like each one, and there's a macrocosmic mind.
Mhm.
In other words, the sum total of all the minds create what? The cosmic mind. Is that right?
Mhm.
And the sum total of all the bodies represents the universal body. So A represents the total bodies at the physical manifestation, what is perceived. And the U represents what? The mind individually, or the entire cosmic mind. All thoughts, all feelings, all ideas. Is that correct? Now, and the third one represents what? What does the third one represent? Now we got the physical, we got the subtle. We got the gross and we got the subtle. Now we're talking about something which is
Say unmanifest.
unmanifest.
Cosmic, no?
There is something which is unmanifest. When we talk about the universe, it is manifest or unmanifest?
Manifested.
Is it? The universe is manifested, isn't it? When we talk about thoughts and feelings and knowledge and understandings and all that stuff, which is a subtle, is it manifest or unmanifest?
Unmanifested.
Yeah, manifest, isn't it? You can get in touch with those feelings. You can get the ideas and so on. It's a world of that's manifest, even though it's in a subtle way. Is that right? Now we're talking about something which is manifest, and it represents that upon which everything manifests, but which still doesn't manifest, which is not subject to objectification.
Is that the death is also a manifest? Is the death is also a...
No, death is also an event.
Yeah,
And then they say there is also the afterlife and all that kind of stuff. That's all manifest.
self.
Exactly. You're talking about that which is a substratum of everything, which is not manifest, but because of which everything manifests.
Always.
In other words, it's like the universe. They have this before the universe was. Okay, let's talk about science. I'm not a scientist, but see what comes out. Let's talk about before the bang. What was there?
The Big Bang.
Oh, no, what was it before the bang?
The gas.
Huh?
Mostly the gas.
Was it just gas? Is it said? Now let's look at something else. Okay, let's see what comes out. You take matter and look into it, and let's suppose that what we found lately is that there's only particles and there is waves, and sometimes behave like particles and besides and they manifest as waves. And let's suppose that is the ultimate reality of matter. Let's just say that. They're going to find out more, don't worry about it. Just like the atom they used to say. But now look at this. The atom, the particle is, what gives it isness? And the wave is, in other words, it can be objectified by calculations, isn't it? It is something that even though it is not seen with the eyes, by calculations, I don't know how they do it, but they know there's such a thing as particle and wave. Well, even at the smallest aspects, there is something unmanifest which mysteriously makes that thing be and behave. And that thing is not manifest. Now you say, well, one day they'll discover it. Let me tell you, you have to discover it here. Here, meaning what? In yourself. You cannot use any instruments for that outside. So the is the end of it. That's why the universe begins and exists, and then when they will contract again, and they will disappear. It's very much in line with the Hindu belief of the, what? You know, the eons, or how do you call this, the days of Brahma. You know, the Brahma exhales, and the universe is there, and then Brahma inhales, and the universe goes away. And then when it exhales again, and the universe manifests. And they give so many millions of years.
Is like a Messiah? Is in Jewish people, the word which
so anyway, so that Brahma, which is not available for objectification, but which is very much present. Remember that in the dream state, you know, there is manifestation. In the waking state, there is manifestation. In other words, when you see me. So the manifestation. You can objectify things. In the dream state, you can also there's also manifestation. In other words, there's objects there. Now, even though they're subtle, but when you go into deep sleep, it's a resolution. But then there's a presence. That is referring to that presence. Which even though the whole thing disappears, it continues to be. It's called Nitya, Nitya Chaitanya. That which is the absolute reality. It's called Satyam, also in Sanskrit. Is that right? Satyam. Now, that is what this unmanifesting is. The last portion of the three letters, A, U, Ma. So it just represents that. So when you say Om, then this last mouth sound ends. That is, you are actually relating to that. You're seeing the universe manifestation, you're seeing the subtle world manifestation, and you see the resolution altogether. I don't think they teach that in school today. It's not a belief. This is everything that is here. There was a time it wasn't, and there's a time it will cease to be. From that X, where it came from, that X is a fact. It's a factor. It's the absence of expression. So this practice is called arupa in Sanskrit. Just as a continuous flag represents its condition here, the A represents the entire gross world, stula prapancha. The U represents the entire subtle world, sukshma prapancha, meaning the mind or inner world, and the represents the unmanifest condition, like the sleep when everything resolves. On waking again comes out. In this way, I'm going to continue on. In this way, Om stands for the entire realm of cause and effect, which is nothing but Brahman. That Brahman is Tat Sat. Tat, that Lord alone, is Satyam. Sat and everything else, listen please, Sat and everything else is Mithya, depending upon that Tat, the Lord. Therefore, the expression Om Tat Sat is a general conclusion. Having said a lot of things, the conclusion is Om Tat Sat, meaning that after all is said and done, Satya alone is. Is it? Did we get lost in this one?
I think there one comma is missing.
Okay, where?
In the second line, the Brahman, Om, is Tat Sat. That Lord alone is Satyam, Sat. There should be comma after that. And everything else is Mithya.
Okay.
The way it reads is Sat and everything else is Mithya. That's the way it reads.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can go with that. Because that's what it's implying.
Yeah.
That's, okay, it could be mistaken. Now, let me tell you, in my language, that would work very well. Why? Because whenever we say and,
Yeah.
we don't put a comma before it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I don't know grammatically in English, but it could be confusing. In English, I can see comma and.
Yeah.
In English they do.
In English, they do. In my language, we don't
Yeah.
use comma. Even though it can be used still.
Yeah.
But I understand now what you mean.
Even if
In Sat?
even if you
There should
normally don't put and,
Mhm.
comma before and, sometimes to make it sure that the reader knows it,
Hmm.
it's good idea.
Now, what
It's
will
not
happen?
grammatically wrong, right?
Now,
Which one are you saying this one?
There should not be comma, right? You say or what?
There should be comma after
Where?
In
that
this
sat.
case, in
Huh?
this case,
Where?
After what?
Where?
After that sat.
Sat. Second
Oh,
line.
after
Second
Sat,
line.
not before.
Now is Satyam, comma, and then you said for Sat to comma
Satyam
too?
sat. So
Another comma.
because Satyam, he defines Satyam as sat, then
But then
comma,
comma.
and everything else is mithya.
But there is no comma,
See,
right? Before.
Usually
There
and
is no
before
comma.
there is no comma.
Comma.
and
Usually there is
then
no.
comma. Yes.
In this case,
but it could be misunderstood.
Yeah.
And since the custom is that sometimes you put commas beforehand,
Comma before
Yeah.
makes it kind of
Before
confusing.
usually.
You're not supposed to.
You're not.
well, I don't know grammar in English that well, but in Spanish.
In do, like the way he is expressing, this way it separates it out.
Right,
And
Yeah, to
it
make
separates to make it separate.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise as he says, it makes like Sat and
Satyam.
everything else.
Continuous on as if
And
it's
everything
joining.
else.
Yeah.
And is always a conjunction to join anything.
Usually and is in pure grammar is you have principal clause and subordinate clause and this is
And
fixed
combined.
and there is no comma in between.
Right.
But sometimes to make it clear,
Right. But the way I read it, I broke it down separate.
yeah,
Isn't it? I didn't say, look at this.
Yeah.
Because I said, also, okay, what is it? No, this is, that Brahman, Om, is Tat Sat. That Lord alone, is Satyam. Sat, that's kind of confusing. That Brahman, Om, is Tat Sat. That Lord alone is Satyam, Sat. And everything else is Mithya,
yeah.
depending upon that Tat.
What he could have also done is if he did not like to put comma before and, he could just put a full stop
Yeah, make
and
two
start
sentences.
with a new sentence and
That's
everything
correct.
else.
That's correct.
He could
That's
do that.
correct. But this is then clear.
Yeah,
Now
it's
look at
clear.
this. This is so important
Yeah.
to be able to appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
Because what is the universe? Now he's actually pointing to what the universe is. What is this Jagat? He's saying that. He's saying it in so many words, but he's saying it very, very succinctly. We have two factors, please. We have Sat, which is Tat. Okay? Is that right? And then we have the universe. So what is the universe?
Nitya. Remaining.
Is Tat plus what?
Eternal.
No. He's saying, look at the words he's saying.
True,
using.
Satya.
No, look at that. Therefore, here is
And
okay.
everything else is
Listen.
Nitya. Right?
And everything else is mithya, dependent upon tat.
Yeah.
In other words, everything is mithya, dependent upon tat. Okay,
So Tat is Lord, right?
right. So this mithya, this universe, which is not real, neither is it real. It's something in between. It's not real or unreal, because we're experiencing in all of us. It's not something subjective you see. Okay, but it's not also real, because to be real, it lacks the qualifications of real. What are the qualifications of real? If something is real, then what?
It cannot
the
be negative.
existence doesn't depend on anything.
That's correct. Its existence is not dependent on anything. In other words, it is free from dependency for its existence. It exists by itself.
Yeah.
So everything in the universe, what? Depends on something to be. Is that correct? So does that make it unreal? No. Why? Because we see it.
So universe is Mithya, right?
That's correct. The universe then, therefore, is something in between.
Yeah.
Nor real, nor unreal. It's something that appears to be real only. It's a adhyasa. Is that the word? Adhyasa?
Yeah. Superposition.
It's a superimposition. It's a superimposition. You know what superimposition it means?
The rope.
And the rope and the,
That's right. That's right.
just like that.
That's right. It's superimposition. Now, a person can cause, like for example, to look at the flag and we superimpose a nation on it. It's a superimposition.
Yes.
All right? But that is a conscious superimposition. It's not confusion. Is that correct? You know, it is actually it's a convention. We say, hey, here's the flag. That represents a country. So you salute the flag, stop an attention and do this whole thing, and you protect it and so on. And that's a superimposition. Of course, the cloth is not the country, but it represents the country. It's loaded with that. Now, and then there's other kinds of superimposition, adhyasa. Okay, what other kinds of superimposition are there? Think about it. Besides, like, this is conscious superimposition. When there is two things, like for example, there's twins. There's two objects. And one is called Luis and the other called Manuel. And then you superimpose on what? On Luis, Manuel, and say, hi, Manuel. Is that a superimposition? Yes, I superimpose Manuel. Isn't it? Now, but here we have two objects which are available to objectification, isn't it? And there's another kind of superimposition. Okay, here is the one in which we see the universe and we say it's real. We see one thing. And then, is there two things, the universe and Brahman?
No.
No.
It isn't like the twins. Is that what I mean? So there's an adhyasa. Here there's a confusion. To take something for what it is not. To give the status of satyam to that which is mithyam. That is, then this is a problem. And for that there has to be discriminative knowledge, discriminative understanding. Whenever the discriminative understanding is to try to get rid of confusion. Now there is not two items. There's not just the reality and the world. No. There is no world. There is no jagat. There is no jiva. All there is Brahman. So to see Brahman, to see on the supreme position, to see the truth, the vastu, the truth of it. You see that here? So I have more or less looked at 3 levels of superimposition adhyasa. The entire Vedanta, the entire knowledge of Vedanta is for the purpose of creating the discriminated knowledge, to be able to eradicate the confusion of giving the status of Satya to that which is Mityam. When you give the status of Satya to that which is Mityam, then you suffer the consequences. Is that right? And in what sense? You're just waiting for the grave. Isn't it? That's not funny. That's pretty serious stuff. But when you're actually able to see through it and have a vision of the reality, then you give Mithya the status of Mithya. No problem. You deal with Mithya, no problem. But you're not confused. There's a confusion. You're not confusing Mithya for Satyam. And you disregard Satyam. You know, you disregard the truth. The truth is completely, we're oblivious to the truth. And we call this the truth. And when we give this the status of truth, in other words, Satyam, then the truth is, I start buying my, I start putting more cosmetics or do something so I can extend my life. All this stuff. Because I'm going. Cosmetic industry becomes big, and the clothing industry becomes big, and the fancy cars becomes big, all this stuff. The iPhone, my God, the lines.
Oh yeah.
The iPad. And to be the first one, oh God, 2 days, 3 days later before, all this stuff, because, that will make me be. And I says, I was number 3. See? Because we're giving the status of Satyam. And if I didn't get it, like for example, the baseball, the football, the World Cup situation, soccer is becoming a source of anger and a source of disappointment. Yeah, I think even the Queen says something about England. Yeah, even the Queen says something about this guy, this structure of the team. Everybody's upset, suffering. We scream, ah!
Well, the second goal was not honored. When England made the second goal, it was not given as a goal.
Right.
So they were all mad at it because they cheated.
Well, and then the guy lets it go in,
Yeah.
So anyway, but we become, it's called passion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying people shouldn't have passion and enthusiasm. I think I'm a very passionate fellow.
Yeah.
People should be, but my God, you hang all your head in it.
Yeah.
Because you take it as a life and death situation.
No.
If somebody doesn't say good morning to you, you become upset.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
As if you didn't have a being and that guy is taking away your being.
Yeah.
He doesn't respect me.
This is what happened. I went to haircut. Oh, you got a lot of gray hair. You mean to say I cannot see it? And then what I told her, I earned it.
So that's the thing.
That's it, I earned it.
Yeah.
Oh, it make you look young, color yourself. It doesn't matter. If coloring it doesn't make me look young. I know what I want to have.
So anyway, that's a consequence. That's the implication of giving of this confusion of giving the status of Satyam to that which is Mithya. And Mithya means that which is apparent. It doesn't mean it's not there. It's a different order of reality. That's all it is. And you should give it its due value. Is that correct? You should give it its due value. Relationship, wife, husband, citizenship, all this stuff, it has a value to it. But it doesn't define you. Who you are needs to be known. You have to discern. It's called, it's discriminative understanding. And when there's discriminative understanding or knowledge, it means to see the thing for what it is. It isn't like the twins, that there's two objects here. It's not the one that we do consciously, towards the flag and all that. Or to a temple or whatever.
Well, even I was thinking when you were talking, even a policeman, policeman, he's a law.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
immediately you're reflecting.
That's right, you superimpose upon him the law, that's correct.
Yep.
It's called a devata.
Yeah.
Isn't it? The Sanskrit says devata.
Even if it's a jerk.
That's right, even if he's a jerk, the guy is a law. You,
Even if it's
you better-
practical.
yeah, but then if you have no discrimination, you see a guy.
Yeah.
You know, especially if you're brown like me,
Yeah.
and then you see this blonde cop, you know, and now he's gonna give me a ticket or whatever, you know, then I react to that. You know, I see the blonde guy, hey, wait a minute, the guy's got a badge, that badge, he's a devata. So you have to discern, you have discriminative knowledge that he is a law.
Yeah.
See the idea? So anyway, so the level of understanding needs to go beyond it. That's called maturity. It's called maturity. So anyway, so I thought I'd bring this up
Sure.
because Swamiji here is using that, so we can actually discern Satyam. Tat, it relates to what? Ishvara, the Lord. Is that right? And that also relates to what? To Sat. Is that right? Entonces then, Mithya, okay, is Tat also. Is that right? Mithya is Tat. Meaning is Ishvara, is Satyam. However, look at this. In other words, there could be no Mithya, no apparent reality, unless there was a reality given in reality. Is that there could be no apparent reality unless there was a reality given in reality. The table is Mithya.
Wood,
Wood is reality.
Satya.
Now, table is because the reality, the wood is there. You take away the reality and there ain't no table. So that needs to be known and the mind needs to pick it up. That's the purpose of Vedanta. We're going to go into that more next time. This Bhagavad-Gita, that's the entire theme of the Bhagavad-Gita. That's the entire theme of the Upanishads. And that is what is also analyzed deeply in the Brahma Sutras.
I was thinking, when you were explaining this Om, the Bhagavan, I was thinking about Greeks, Greek mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking they had a different view of all this, although they used the celestial, the universe, as a basis for beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of a reflection here. But in Hindu scriptures, they use a little bit more, conceptually it's a little bit similar, but not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Because here is, like you were explaining, the universe, all the forces acting on it, it's not visible. You can't put it like the home. It's not an idol or Ishvara or somebody. It's beyond that.
That's great. But what is missing in most of philosophies or most traditions? There's something missing. Now, and it is because the Dvaitan. Dvaitan means what? Dualistic.
Yeah.
And of course they find a way to explain the universe. Native Indians and all that. Native Indians used to be called, they used to call there was the Great Spirit, they used to call it. Not many spirit, the Great Spirit. But it's manifested in the eagles, manifested here, but it was the Great Spirit. It's called the bird, the thunder bird. It was a lightning.
Yeah.
Okay? However, they knew that there was a power behind that. And the Native American, as well as in many other traditions where there is this rites of initiation that are non-dualistic in a sense, found a way to get the boys out, to become in touch with that, like the heroes in the Star Wars movie. How do you call that? The Force. Remember the Force? Have you ever seen those Star Wars movies? Look at it, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Why? Because he's talking about some some wisdom, some wise people that have this apprentice, and this guy that has a particular lineage, and the fellow is actually has all the potential to get in touch with that part of it.
That's what the Greeks also have the same thing in a
Yeah.
similar fashion.
So they actually exert themselves to the point in which they trust. As a matter of fact, there's a scene in the Star Wars movie in which this teacher of this fellow, this young fellow, is trying. They develop this very wonderful. It's like a ball that zaps the student, and this guy has got this. You've seen this. This sword is made of light, isn't it?
Laser.
The laser. So they usually use that as a way to defend themselves. And then this guy said, trust the force. Trust, in other words, let go of trying to do it yourself. Let the force do it. In other words, step aside. And the guy doesn't get it. And the guy doesn't get it, and then he gets zapped and he gets zapped, and says, okay, let me show you. Then he puts a shield on top of him. I said, what are you talking about? You're not going to zap him anymore. Just trust the force. And the fellow, in this particular scene, he doesn't see anymore because he's got this mask. Have you seen the movies? Watch this, very interesting. So then, the guy he comes this thing to zap it, and then automatically he gets in touch with something and then starts doing, and that ball doesn't zap him anymore. There's many instances in the course of the different movies of the Star Wars. You guys get a chance to look at them.
I've seen the one. We went
And,
in 77.
Yes, some of it I have seen.
Yeah, and there was a fellow, Joseph Campbell, which in some way inspired this guy that produced the Star Wars movies. What's his name? From Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah,
Lucas.
Yeah, Lucas.
And so there's all this mythology in it, involved in it. The point is that traditions have always had the underlying understanding, knowledge, that there is something which is awesome, which cannot be objectified. And they call it the Great Spirit, call it the Force, call it whatever you want to call it, is the vision of the person. In the ancient traditions of Mexico, they had this warrior class, and they had this priest class, and so on. And there used to be schools in which these people actually were able to really grow to the point in which they would actually, through different exercises and experiences, to be able to trust that Tai Chi, for example, a lot of these martial arts, you had to step aside. You had to step aside completely. I was talking about pure awareness. Pure awareness, pure consciousness is the force which is behind the entire universe. As a matter of fact, it's because of which the heart beats. It's because of which the physiological functions function. It's because the eye see. This is because the mind thinks. So to be able to trust that is to be able to accomplish the end of life, because now you're connected as you were. Even though you're always connected, but you disconnect yourself because of avidya, ignorance, to give the status of reality to that which only has an apparent reality. Satya, it doesn't depend on anything. And we call this Satyam. So this awareness, which is not object-oriented, but is pure awareness, that is yourself, is something that, it doesn't mean you get rid of the world and the forms and everything, because that's what people think. You gotta get rid of your mind. Hey, there's nothing wrong with the mind. The mind, what is the mind if it's not a whole bunch of thoughts? And what are the thoughts made of? If it isn't name and form plus what? Consciousness. They exist. Consciousness existence, which is Sat-Chit. That's all the mind is. It's just Sat-Chit. But we give credence to the mind, and we get stuck with the name and the form. And we're oblivious to the content. The most awesome thing. And it is not something to be objectified, it's to be recognized as ourselves. That's why Om is necessary to be unfolded. It's not just an intellectual exercise. It's very important.
It's very well done.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do prayer and finish the class. Om. 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 Lord, lead us from what appears to be true to what is true. Lead us, Lord, from confusion into clarity. Lord, lead us from a sense of limitation to discover our limitlessness. Lord, that is whole. This is whole. From that whole, this whole became manifest. And if from that whole, this whole will be taken away, what will remain will again be only the whole. Lord, let there be peace, peace, peace. Om Asato Ma Sat Gamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotir Gamaya, Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya, Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnaat Purnamudashyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kachit Dukha Bhavet Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Guruvyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Thank you. Well, we still have a few more days to go on this book.